Whispers in the Rain, Ember Edition. Part 1. The first drop. The rain didn't start gently. It came down like a decision, sudden, sharp and cold, drenching the sidewalks of Kitsilano in seconds. Elara Winslow stood beneath the meager shelter of a rusted bus stop sign, her hands clenched around a leather-bound sketchbook that now bled charcoal with every passing second. Of course it would rain. The one day she left her umbrella at home. The one day she wore the white blouse. The one day she needed to feel held together. Behind her, the gallery lights dimmed. The meeting was over. A portfolio review that went from cordial to crushing in under 10 minutes. We're not looking for emotional work right now. It's too raw, too personal, too much you. She had smiled, nodded, thanked them for their time, then stepped into a city that no longer seemed to have room for her. Her phone buzzed again in her bag. She ignored it. Probably Jake, probably more condolences laced with guilt. I didn't mean to say it like that, Elara. You know I loved your mother too. It's just been... a lot. Everything had been a lot lately. She was tired of people saying that. Then she saw him. A flash of black and silver across the street, parked beneath the edge of a closed mechanic shop. A motorcycle. A man. He leaned against the wall like he'd been carved there. Leather jacket soaked, but unmoved. Cigarette tucked behind his ear. Dark hair plastered to his forehead. A scar traced a half-moon near his temple. One hand resting on the curve of the bike's tank, like it was an extension of his body. And he was watching her. No smirk, no leer. Just watching. Like he was listening to something only she could hear. She should have looked away, walked the other direction. But she didn't. Instead, she crossed the street, shoes splashing in puddles, sketchbook clutched to her chest like armor. She didn't stop walking until she passed him. "Looks like your day's going just as well as mine," the man said. His voice was low, slight rasp. Not flirtatious, just curious. Elara stopped, slowly turned. "And what exactly gave you that idea?" He tilted his head. "You've got that look. Retlog. The kind people wear when they're about to start screaming but settle for crying instead." She blinked. "You think you can read people that well? Only the ones who look like they're drowning on dry land." Her lips parted. She couldn't think of anything to say, so she didn't. Just stared back until he nodded once and stepped forward. "You drop this." She looked down. Her phone must have slipped from her bag. He held it out in his left hand. An odd angle, his fingers curled like they didn't want to straighten. A scar traced along the side of his palm. "Thanks," she said, reaching for it. His fingers brushed hers, warm, despite the rain. Their eyes met again. And in that fraction of a second, Elara felt something shift. Something she didn't understand. "Didn't trust." "Name's Kian," he said. "Elara? That's Greek, right?" She raised an eyebrow. "And you're a linguist now, too?" "I like names," he shrugged. "They say things people don't." She turned to go. He didn't follow. But when she looked back once more, just once, he was still there, watching. 1 week later, she hadn't meant to come back, but she did. Same street, same time, same rain. Only this time, the coffee shop across from the mechanics was open, and she walked inside without really thinking about it. The doorbell jingled. The scent of espresso, vanilla, and cinnamon hugged her shoulders like a blanket. "Large dark roast," said a voice from the corner. "No room for cream. Extra hot." Kian. He was sitting by the window. Same, leather jacket. A different shirt. This one gray, stretched across a chest that looked a little too defined for someone who claimed to just fix things. She narrowed her eyes. "You memorized my order? You were mumbling it to yourself the first time. Figured I'd help you out this round." Elara sat down across from him without asking. "I didn't come here for company." "Good," he said. I didn't offer any. She smiled despite herself. The waitress came over, placed a mug in front of her, then turned to Kian. "The usual?" she asked. He nodded. "Make it 2. They didn't talk for the first 10 minutes. He read a book, something dog-eared and covered in scrawled notes. She flipped through her sketch pad, trying not to be aware of how close his knee was to hers under the table. Then he spoke. "You draw like someone who's bleeding." Her breath caught. She looked up slowly. "Excuse me?" He flipped her sketch pad toward him. Stopped on a page. A portrait of a woman with her face half-shadowed. Rain falling through the lines like sorrow. "You don't draw pretty things. You draw truth." "I don't remember asking for a critique." He met her gaze. "Maybe you didn't. But someone needs to tell you, you're brilliant before you stop believing it." And just like that, he disarmed her. Again. She reached for her coffee. "You always talk like that?" He smirked. "Only when I'm nervous." Her brow furrowed. "You're nervous?" He looked down. "You make it hard not to be." A moment passed. Too long. Not long enough. She stood up. "I have to go." He didn't stop her, but his voice followed her out. Next Tuesday, same time. 3 weeks later. Rain, coffee, silence, conversation. It became routine. Elara stopped, wondering why she kept showing up. She told herself it was for the coffee, or the quiet. Not the way Kian listened to her. Not the way he looked at her when she wasn't paying attention. Not the way his voice dipped when he said her name like a song. He'd almost forgotten. One night, they closed the cafe. "I don't want to go home yet," she admitted, staring at the fogged window. "Then don't." He stood, held out a helmet. She blinked. "What is this?" "A bad idea." She took it. The ride through the city was electric. Cold air in her lungs, his body close against hers, the steady roar of the engine humming through her bones. He stopped at a pier, empty, the water choppy and moonlit. She pulled the helmet off, breathless, adrenalized. He didn't speak, just leaned against the bike, looking out across the water. "Why do you do that?" she asked. "Do what?" "Keep everything inside." He didn't answer. So she stepped closer, pressed a hand to his chest, felt the drumbeat beneath. He caught her wrist gently. "Don't. Enough. Because I want to kiss you. And if I do, it's over." Elara swallowed. "What's over?" "The pretending." He leaned in. She didn't stop him. The kiss was slow, barely there, but it burned. Part 2. Thunder beneath the skin. They didn't talk about the kiss. Not the next morning, not the Tuesday after. But everything changed. The space between them at the cafe got smaller. The eye contact lingered. Her fingers brushed his when she passed the sugar. And he didn't pull away. The silence grew thick, not awkward, but charged. Elara would go home and lie awake, replaying the feeling of his mouth on hers, the way he hesitated before his lips found hers, the tremble in his breath, the grip of his hand on the small of her back, like he wasn't sure she'd stay if he let go. She didn't tell anyone, not about him, not about what they were becoming, because she didn't know what to call it. That night at the pier didn't end with the kiss. After they pulled apart, they stood for what felt like years. Rain collected on her eyelashes. His forehead leaned against hers. "Kian," she murmured. He stepped back. 1 step, then 2. "I can't give you what you're looking for," he said, voice rough. She frowned. "Who said I'm looking for anything?" He smiled without warmth. "Everyone is, eventually." Then he walked to his bike, started it up, and didn't say goodbye. Elara stood on the pier until her fingers went numb. 1 week later, she didn't go to the cafe that Tuesday. He didn't text, didn't call. Wednesday passed, then Thursday. On Friday night, She sat on her couch, sketching with angry, violent strokes. All her drawings came out wrong, too sharp, too dark. At 2 a.m., there was a knock at her door. She froze and opened it. Kian stood there, drenched in rain. "I've been walking," he said. "Where?" "Couldn't sleep." Her voice was quiet. "You left me on that pier." "I know." She stepped aside. He walked in, and the storm finally broke. The first night. They didn't speak much. She dropped her sketchbook on the floor. He slipped off his jacket. Her hands trembled when they met his. He kissed her like he was starving, like he had been starving for years and only just realized what hunger meant. Clothes hit the floor in pieces, wet fabric, buttons tugged loose, zippers pulled too fast. But the moment their skin touched, everything slowed. He was gentle in ways that startled her. He traced the lines of her collarbone with his lips, cupped the back of her neck like she might disappear. She kissed every scar on his hand, watched the way his breath stuttered when she touched the places he avoided. And when they finally fit together, bodies and breath and aching hearts, it wasn't just sex. It was surrender. Raw, quiet, spicy in a way that didn't scream, but whispered. "You're not alone anymore. You're safe here. I want this. All of it. You?" Afterward, he lay on his side, fingers drawing idle circles along her shoulder. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded, head resting on his chest. "Yeah," she said. "Are you?" He didn't answer for a long time. Then, not yet, but closer. The ghost in the photo. They started spending nights together after that. Not every night, but enough. He brought her coffee in the mornings. She kissed the sleep from his lips. They shared stories in the dark, whispering like teenagers under blankets. She learned he played piano with his right hand, but never in front of anyone. That he smoked cloves when he was anxious. That he kept a photo inside his guitar case of a woman she didn't recognize. One night, after he fell asleep, curiosity got the better of her. She opened the case. Picture, faded and crinkled. A woman with short auburn hair and green eyes, laughing, sunlight behind her. The back read, "Ein forever." Elara's heart twisted. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, she left before he woke up. The truth unravels. Kian didn't come to the cafe that week. She called once, he didn't pick up. On Friday, he showed up at her door again, but this time he looked different. Eyes bloodshot, jacket unzipped, knuckles scraped. "You saw the picture," he said. She didn't pretend. "Who was she?" He exhaled. "My fiancé, 4 years ago." Elara felt the floor tilt. "What happened?" "She died," he said. "Motorcycle crash. The same one that messed up my hand." Her stomach sank. "You never told me." "I didn't want to be a man defined by grief. I wanted to be something else, with you." She stepped back. "So, I'm a distraction?" "No," he said quickly. "You're the first person I've felt anything for, since her." "Then why do you keep running?" "Because I'm terrified I'll lose you too." She swallowed. Tears blurred her vision. "We all lose," she whispered. "That's life. I can't survive another one." "You don't have to, not alone." He stepped forward. "Are you saying you want to stay?" "I'm saying I already have." In the collapse. They were happy. For a while. But broken hearts don't heal cleanly. Kian began pulling away again. Not all at once. Little things. He forgot her coffee order, missed their Tuesday ritual, stopped touching her with the same reverence. And one night, when she came to his place unannounced, she heard a song. Piano. Soft. Slow. A woman's voice. She froze outside the door. And then heard her name. Not Elara. Her heart cracked. She didn't knock. She didn't go in. She turned around and walked back into the rain. Part 3. Echoes in the static. The rain never stopped that week. Not a drizzle, but a relentless downpour. Thick, pounding, merciless. Vancouver wept alongside Elara, and she let it. Hood up, phone off, heart cracked. She disappeared into side streets and sketchbooks, into silence and memory. She didn't call him, didn't write, didn't need to, because she already knew. 3 days before the silence. She had shown up at Kian's place late, unannounced. She had just finished a live drawing session downtown, a fundraiser for local mental health. She was supposed to be glowing. Instead, she stood frozen outside his door. The sound of piano spilled through the cracks. Gentle, haunting. And then, I love you like the last chord in a dying song. Ari, Ari, Ari. Her name. Not hers. Not anymore. Back then. The fire before the fall. 4 years ago. Kian wasn't fixing guitars. He was on stage. Black tee, silver chain, voice like thunder wrapped in velvet. A rising indie musician, the kind who didn't chase fame, but had it orbiting him anyway. And Ari was everywhere. Red lipstick, wild eyes, a poet with a camera and a temper. They were chaos. A chemical reaction waiting to burn. And they did. Loud fights in parking lots, passionate reconciliations on hardwood floors. She'd carve poems into his skin with her mouth, and he'd sing her name between sets. They were in love in the way young people think they're invincible. Then one night, the rain came. Ari had been furious, jealous, over a backstage hug, a misunderstood text, some old photo. She rode off on his spare bike without a helmet. He tried to stop her. He was 10 seconds too late. A caw, a scream, then silence. He woke in a hospital bed with a broken hand and no fiancé. Now, the weight of unspoken things. Elara stared at the blank page of her sketchbook. Her hand hovered, her fingers didn't move. She hadn't drawn in 4 days. Not since that night. Not since she heard her name erased in real time. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to hate him. But she couldn't. Because she saw the grief behind his silence, the guilt behind every kiss, the sadness tucked into his laughter. He wasn't healed. He had tried to love her with pieces of himself still wrapped around a ghost. And she had let him. Kian's spiral. He didn't leave the apartment for 2 days. Didn't eat. Didn't sleep. He just played song after song on the out-of-tune upright piano in the corner of the living room. Every note was raw, every chord cracked. He checked his phone constantly. No messages. No Elara. He called once, straight to voicemail. The second night, he walked to the pier where they first kissed. He waited until sunrise. She never came. The letter. On the 6th day, he found it. And taped to his door. Written in her hand. Kian, I saw you. Not just that night. I saw you from the beginning. I saw the way you looked at the sky before speaking. The way you guarded your hand, your smile, your soul. I knew you were wounded. I just didn't realize you were still bleeding. I don't blame you for loving her. I don't even blame you for saying her name. I blame myself for thinking I could replace something sacred. But I'm not a substitute. And you're not a grave. I love you, Kian. Deeply. But I love myself enough to leave before I become invisible. Find your peace. Then maybe, find me. Elara. He stood on the porch for an hour after reading it. The rain soaked the paper. It dissolved in his hands. He let it. Part 4. The Pause Between Storms. 3 months later, Banff, Alberta. Elara hadn't meant to sign up for the art retreat, but she did. Mostly because the silence back in Vancouver had grown too loud. Her apartment smelled like coffee she didn't drink anymore. Her Tuesday morning stretched like a wound. So when the invitation came from a friend, 5 days in the Rockies, cabins, sketch sessions, snow, and quiet, she said yes. She didn't pack much. Her pencils, her books, a scarf that still smelled faintly of him. She told herself it was just a scarf. Day 1, she stepped off the shuttle into a world made of white and pine. The Banff air was sharp and clean, the sky the color of polished steel. Cabins dotted the tree line, with smoke curling up from stone chimneys. A man carried her bag inside. She thanked him without really seeing him. Her hands shook when she picked up a pencil that night, not from cold, but from memory. She sketched anyway. She sketched mountains that looked like clenched fists, trees that bent like they were hiding from the wind, and eyes. His eyes, over and over again. Day 3, a sound she knew too well. It was snowing lightly when she heard it. It was not loud, not obvious, but unmistakable. Piano. She followed it across the snow, past the main hall, to a smaller cabin tucked behind the ridge. The door was cracked. The keys were soft beneath practiced fingers. Slow, aching, familiar. She stepped inside and froze. Murder. Kian. Reunion in a snowstorm. He didn't see her at first. He was hunched over the piano in a thick flannel, hair longer, eyes closed. His fingers danced over the keys like they remembered how to breathe again. She didn't move. Didn't speak. She just listened. Then he looked up. His breath caught. Elara, he whispered. She felt the name in her bones. I thought you left the city, she said, voice shaking. I did. For how long? Forever, if I had to. They stared at each other for a long time. Then he stood, took a single step toward her. I read your letter every day, he said. It dissolved, she whispered. Not in here, he said, placing a hand over his heart. Never did. She took a shaky breath. I tried to hate you. I tried to forget you. They both failed. Nightfall, the cabin. They didn't go back to their cabins. They stayed in the piano room. He lit the fireplace. She sat on a faded couch. They didn't touch yet, not physically. But every word peeled away a layer of armor. I went to grief counseling, he said. Finally. I started drawing again, she replied. But not for clients, just for me. I wrote a song. She blinked. For me? He shook his head. About me. Because you deserved someone whole. She looked away. I wasn't whole either, she said. I just knew how to pretend better. Then the silence stretched between them like thread. He reached out and touched her cheek. Can I kiss you? She didn't answer. She kissed him. The second night, fire and ice. Zero caught us. This time wasn't like before. This time was slow. Worshipful. Kian peeled off her clothes like paper, eyes never leaving hers. He kissed the curve of her shoulder, the underside of her wrist, the scar on her ankle she always tried to hide. She traced every scar on his hand, his ribs, the faded line beneath his collarbone. He breathed her name like a prayer. She said his like a secret. They moved like two rivers converging, inevitable, chaotic, and divine. When it was over, they lay together, bodies tangled beneath wool blankets. No promises were spoken, but none were needed. The avalanche. The next morning, the mountain roared. Literally. At 7:42 a.m., a controlled avalanche was triggered on a nearby slope, part of the park's safety protocol. But something went wrong. Too much snow. Ate too fast. Not enough warning. By 8:05, roads were blocked, trees uprooted, a section of the camp buried. Panic. Sirens. Searchlights. Kian and Elara ran from the cabin barefoot into the snow. They found others, helped dig. Hours passed. Then someone shouted, "There's a body." Part 5. Buried Things. 8:07 IMM. Chaos. The world had turned white. Not the soft kind of white from storybooks. This was jagged, loud, and heavy. The snow didn't fall. It collapsed. It screamed. It swallowed. Elara's lungs burned from the cold, her fingers trembling as she shoved snow aside with others, her breath hitching each time someone screamed a name. She wasn't sure when she started crying, or when her nails began to bleed, or when Kian's voice cracked beside her, yelling directions, taking charge, carrying people from the wreckage of crushed cabins. Adrenaline blurred the edges, until someone shouted, "There's a body. It's a guy, dark flannel, not moving. Over here." Elara froze. Flannel, dark hair, not moving. "No!" she gasped, stumbling toward the sound. "No. Please, no." 8:14 IM. Stillness. She saw him. Off buried, snow packed around his legs, blood on his temple. Kian, unmoving. Elara dropped to her knees, brushing snow from his face with bare hands. His lips were blue. His pulse, faint. "Help!" she screamed. "He's alive. He's breathing. Please!" Someone pulled her back. Park rangers. Medics. They lifted him onto a stretcher, his head lolled to the side. She followed, stumbling, breathless, numb. Hospital, 2:45 p.m. The ER smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. Elara sat in a cold plastic chair, her hands wrapped in bandages, her clothes still damp. The nurse had offered her tea. She hadn't touched it. When the doctor appeared, her heart stopped. "He's stable," he said. "Mild concussion, 2 fractured ribs, early hypothermia, but he's going to be okay." She didn't cry. Not yet. She just nodded, like her bones might crumble otherwise. "Can I see him?" The room. He was pale, but alive. His left hand was hooked to an IV. His right, her favorite, lay across his stomach, twitching lightly as he slept. She sat beside him, took that right hand and held it. "I should have stayed away," she whispered. "I should have let you heal alone." His eyelids fluttered. "You didn't," he said, voice rough. She gasped. "You're awake." "Hurts," he mumbled. "Everything hurts." She leaned in. "Don't move." He opened his eyes fully and looked at her, like she was the only thing left in the world. "You came back," he said. "You almost didn't." She gripped his fingers tighter. His smile was crooked, weak, but it reached his eyes. "I'm hard to kill." Her lips trembled. "You scared me. I scare myself sometimes." She brushed his hair back. He whispered, "Stay. I'm not leaving." The confession. It was dark by the time he could sit up. The machines beeped softly in the corner. Outside the window, snow fell like regret. Elara sat cross-legged at the foot of his bed. "I thought I lost you," she said. "You almost did. Where were you in the cabin alone?" "I needed to finish the song." "What song?" He reached for a notebook by the bed, slipped to a page, handed it to her. It was titled, Elara. The lyrics made her eyes burn. "I kissed her like a man trying to forget the fire. But she kissed me like a woman who remembered how it started. She saw the cracks and poured light into them. She sketched the ghosts right out of my chest. And I loved her like I didn't know how. But I did. Oh, God, I did." She couldn't breathe. When she looked up, he was watching her, quiet, scared. "I love you," she whispered. "I never stopped," he whispered back. "The unmaking." They kissed again that night. Carefully. No fire this time, just ember, steady, warm. He kissed her fingertips, bandaged and bruised. She kissed the stitches on his temple. And when she climbed into the hospital bed beside him, curling up against his good side, neither said a word. They just lay there, two hearts sinking beneath thin cotton blankets, while machines hummed lullabies. 3 weeks later, Vancouver. The news faded fast. Just another winter storm, just another lucky rescue. But Kian wasn't the same. Neither was Elara. They didn't return to the cafe. They didn't fall into old rhythms. They made new ones. Morning walks, shared sketchbooks, studio nights with tea and jazz. He played for her now, not just on instruments, but with words, with touch, with the way he breathed when she entered a room. And when he asked her, one quiet morning, if she'd move in, she said yes. But not every story ends gently. "Are you okay?" she asked one night, watching him stare out the window, his fingers drumming a song she didn't know. He smiled, just thinking. About what? How lucky I am. He turned toward her, and she saw it, just for a second. The wince, the one he tried to hide. The hand, the rib. Is it still hurting? Sometimes, he admitted. She kissed his shoulder. "Let me take care of you." "You already do," he said. But the pain would return. And this time, it wouldn't just be physical. Part 6. Before the storm breaks. Spring in Vancouver. Rain gave way to cherry blossoms. The city bloomed like a secret, pink petals dusting the sidewalks, caught in hair and jacket sleeves. Elara and Kian moved through it like a slow waltz, sunlight kissing their joined hands, laughter soft and low in the mornings. For a while, it felt like they'd outrun the storm. She opened her first solo exhibition, a small downtown gallery filled with moody ink portraits, abstract pain, and one pencil rendering of a man with wild eyes and broken fingers. The label read simply, "The Sound That Saved Me." Kian stood beside her that night, hand in hers, smiling at strangers. But when no one was looking, he leaned against the wall, breathing heavier, paler. She noticed. He didn't admit it. Not yet. The hospital, again. 2 weeks later, she found him on the floor. It was morning. She had gone out early to buy fresh croissants and came back to silence. Then a crash. Then... "Kian?" She found him in the bathroom, one arm gripping the edge of the counter, the other clutching his chest. "Don't panic," he rasped. She did. Diagnosis. The art was louder this time. Brighter. Colder. The doctor's voice didn't waver when he said it. An infection. Post-traumatic, likely related to the injury in Banff, but it's spread. "We've caught it, but it's stubborn. He's going to need surgery." Elara nodded, then asked the question with a trembling voice. "Will he be okay?" Silence. Then the doctor said, "We'll try our best." The long wait. The surgery was scheduled for the following Friday. Kian hated hospitals. He cracked jokes to mask it, called the gown sexy, asked for a sketchbook, and flirted with the nurses. But at night, when he thought she was asleep in the visitor chair, he would whisper things into the dark. "Don't let me disappear. I'm not done loving you yet. God, I'm scared." She never let him know she heard. She just squeezed his hand tighter. Thursday night. They made love in a hospital bed. Carefully, slowly. She crawled into the sheets beside him after the nurses left. His skin was warm, fevered. His hands trembled slightly as he touched her face, then lower, tracing her spine, her ribs, her thighs. No hunger this time, just gratitude. Their bodies moved like prayers, messy, reverent, final. When it was over, he held her like a lifeline. "Elara," he whispered. "Yeah, if I don't make it, you..." Let me say this. She let the silence answer. If I don't make it, I need you to remember something. What? He touched her jaw. His thumb brushed her lips. You made the rain feel beautiful again. Friday. The waiting room smelled like old magazines and bad coffee. Hours passed. 3, then 4. Then a nurse entered. Elara Winslow. She stood, so fast her chair toppled. He's asking for you. Recovery. He was pale, but smiling. You should see the other guy, he rasped. She laughed through tears, cupped his face, kissed his forehead, cheeks, lips. I thought I lost you, she sobbed. You almost did. Don't joke. I'm not, he said. I saw a tunnel. She froze. What was at the end? He looked at her with glassy eyes. You. 1 month later, Kian came home. Thinner, weaker, but alive. She filled the apartment with flowers, music, sketches of things she'd drawn while he slept. He played again, slowly, carefully, a song every night. One evening, after dinner, he sat by the window with a glass of red wine, the guitar across his lap. Elara. She turned. Will you marry me? She blinked. I don't have a ring yet, he added, but I have a plan. She walked over, sat on his lap, kissed his forehead. Yes, she whispered. But rain returns. You don't escape storms forever. And this love story is not about escape. It's about beauty despite the end. Part 7. The Last Rain. 1 year later. The wedding that wasn't. There was no aisle. No officiant. No crowd. Just Elara in a long ivory sweater dress. Hair tied loosely, no makeup. Barefoot in the dewy grass. And Kian, standing under a cherry blossom tree, pale but glowing, in a dark linen shirt that hung too loose on his frame. Their wedding had been postponed twice already. Once for healing, once for money. By the third time, they said, screw it. This is enough, he whispered, taking her hands. This is everything, she whispered back. He kissed her under the branches. Petals fell around them like slow snow. 1 month later, the blood test. He had been coughing. Elara brushed it off as allergies, maybe stress. Then the fever came back. Then the shakes. Then the blood. The doctor confirmed what they both had feared in silence. It's back. Stronger. Spreading. Not just infection. Complications from the accident. Years of trauma to the lungs. Internal scarring. Now organ damage. And... words she couldn't say out loud. Terminal. 5 weeks left. They didn't tell anyone. Not yet. They made a list instead. Things to do before goodbye. Visit the pier one last time. Finish his song. Frame her favorite sketch. Record his voice. Dance in the rain. And they did. One by one. The last recording. He waited until she was asleep on the couch. Then he sat in the studio and hit record. If you're hearing this, he said, I'm probably gone. But don't cry yet. Not until the bridge. I was a broken man when you met me. A walking silence. And you, God, you were thunder. You didn't fix me. You just reminded me that I was still alive. I wish I had more time to love you. But what I had was everything. And I'll die with your name still wet on my tongue. Keep painting out. Keep walking in the rain. It'll feel cold, but it's still just love falling from the sky. I'll see you there. The last rain. It came quietly. He had asked for music. So she played their song on vinyl, soft, jazzy, slow. His breaths were shallow, his hand in hers. She sketched his face until the tears blurred the lines. Hey, he whispered. I'm here, she choked. I'm not scared, he said. She bent down, forehead to his. Promise me something. Lot. Then he smiled. Then he stopped. Laughter. She buried him on a hill, where the wind played melodies through the trees. She didn't wear black. She wore the same ivory sweater dress from their not wedding. She kissed the casket, left his pic tucked into her sketchbook, and walked away barefoot in the rain. 2 years later, the gallery. The exhibit was titled Rain Songs, A Love in 7 Movements. Elara stood quietly in the center. People wept in front of her sketches, grief rendered in shadow and fire and skin and sound. In one corner was a looped video. Kian's voice, his final message. And across the room, on a pedestal of polished wood, was her final piece. A simple drawing, 2 hands, fingertips just touching, or below it, some storms aren't meant to pass. They become part of you, and some people don't stay. They echo. Epilogue, the letter. She wrote him once a year, on the anniversary of his death. Always the same words. It still rains. I still walk. And yes, I still love you. Part 8. What came before the end? 1 year before. The road trip. The decision was spontaneous. Let's go somewhere, Elara said, her feet in Kian's lap, sketchbook resting on her knees. He looked up from tuning his guitar. Where? Anywhere there isn't cell signal. Somewhere we can disappear for a bit. He grinned. Disappearing with you sounds like a dream. 2 days later, they were driving up the sea-to-sky highway, the windows down, music loud, her hair whipping in the wind. They stopped in Squamish for sandwiches, in Whistler for old records, and at a little motel by a hidden lake that didn't even show up on Google Maps. They spent 3 days there. No social media, no clocks. Just books, touch, firewood, sketches on napkins, kisses on foreheads. The quiet kind of joy that didn't need captions. On the last morning, they watched the sunrise, wrapped in one blanket. This, he whispered, feels like the most alive I've ever been. She didn't answer. She just held his hand tighter. The unsent letter. After he passed, she found a sealed envelope inside his guitar case. Her name on it. Inside was a letter, written in thick, uneven strokes, like it had been hard for him to write. Elara, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But not really. Because I loved you so completely, I'm not sure there's a part of me left that isn't tied to your name. I was afraid of love for a long time. Afraid it would bury me. But then you showed up in the rain, like a storm I wanted to drown in. Thank you for making my final years more than survival. Thank you for the laughter, the Sunday pancakes, the sketch of me smiling I swore looked weird but secretly adored. Thank you for touching me like I was art. For believing in the music I was too scared to play. Thank you for saying yes. Even if we didn't get the aisle, we got forever anyway. Love like rain. Always. She kept that letter in her coat pocket for months. It weathered, softened, but never tore. The favorite morning. He used to hum in the kitchen, low and off-key. She'd wake to the sound of it, roll over, and smile before her eyes even opened. Morning wildflower, he'd say. Always that name. And she'd pretend to groan and mumble. No one calls their lover Wildflower in 2024. But she loved it. He'd brew her lavender tea, press a kiss to her shoulder, and whisper, "Don't forget how good it is, even when it hurts." It was simple. It was sacred. It was love in flannel. The song, final verse. He finished it weeks before he died. She found the recording after. Studio track, mixed rough. Just his voice and a guitar that creaked a little with every movement. She played it once, then again, and again. Because the last verse was everything. And if the clouds come, let them come. I've got thunder in my chest. From the woman who called me back. From the dead. She loved me. When I had nothing but a song and broken strings. She made the rain holy again. The last sketch. On the anniversary of his death, she opened a blank page. For the first time in months. And she drew the scene from the pier. The bite. The raid. Her face. In the shadows, his face turned toward her like he always was. A single line connecting their hands across the paper. And in the corner she wrote, "We don't all get a lifetime. Some of us just get the storm." But what a beautiful storm it was. Final word, loved. It lingers in songs, in rain, in empty mugs beside messy beds, in the way someone traces their lips when they're thinking, in the echo of a name whispered in sleep. Elara never stopped loving him. She just learned how to carry it without breaking. And somewhere out there, when the sky opens, she walks through the rain, head up, palm out, and smiles. Because that's how Kian would have wanted it. The end.